Welcome back to the third hour of our show. Thom Hartmann here with you. In 1984, an appropriate year, I suppose. In 1984, 145 countries signed the Convention Against Torture. And that convention was used by prosecutors in Spain to charge the General Augusto Pinochet, the Chilean army general and dictator who implemented a series of right-wing operations, killed 3,200 people, 80,000 were imprisoned without trials, 30,000 subject to torture. That led a group of Spanish prosecutors to go after him, and he eventually was arrested in the UK. Now we're finding some interesting parallels. And I wanted to get Marjorie Cohn on. MarjorieCohn.com is her website, MarjorieCohn.com, and discuss this whole issue of what's going on in Spain with the members, former members of the Bush administration who are being charged or may well be charged. I'm thinking it's probably a certainty, but with torture. And we're talking about Alberto Gonzales, the former White House counsel and attorney general, David Addington, the former vice president to Dick Cheney's chief of staff, former vice president Dick Cheney's chief of staff, Doug Feith, who was undersecretary of defense, William Haynes, formerly of the Pentagon's general counsel, and John Yoo and Jay Bybee, who are both senior Justice Department legal advisors. Marjorie Cohn, welcome to the program.
My pleasure, Tom.
And Marjorie, you are in addition, the professor of law at Thomas Jefferson Law School. You're the president of the National Lawyers Guild and the author of numerous books, including your latest, Rules of Disengagement, The Politics and Honor of Military Dissent, and a regular on our show. And at least in my mind, I'm very pleased to have you on a fairly regular basis. What's your take on what's going on here?
Well, interestingly, the judge in Spain referred the case to the Spanish prosecutor for possible investigation under Spain's universal jurisdiction law. Now, this, of course, the torture that took place didn't have any direct relationship with Spain, but many countries, including the United States, have these universal jurisdiction laws that permit one country to prosecute a foreign national because certain crimes are considered so heinous, they're crimes against all of humanity. Right. Universal jurisdiction complements but doesn't supersede a national prosecution. So if the United States were seriously investigating these former Bush officials, other countries like Spain would refrain from doing so.
Is universal prosecution the kind of thing that Israel was using against German war criminals?
Yes. In fact, Israel used universal jurisdiction to prosecute, convict, and execute Adolf Eichmann for his crimes during the Holocaust, even though they had no direct relationship with Israel. But ironically, since Spain is now investigating charges of torture against Israel in Gaza, the Spanish legislature is considering repealing Spain's universal jurisdiction law, and that may play into the future of this prosecution against these 6 former Bush officials.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a very interesting double twist irony. Yeah. It seems to me that I don't know if you saw the movie Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes, I did.
I thought it was just a brilliant movie, and the subtext to it. It takes place. It's the world through the eyes of a 10 or 12-year-old girl, but it takes place during Franco's rule, and while in Italy, I mean, you had basically 3 European countries that embraced fascism in the 1930s: Italy, Spain, and Germany. And the Germans, I think we can safely say, have recoiled from that. The Italians, there's still a strong fascist movement in Italy, but Silvio Berlusconi basically owns all the media in that country, so you don't hear much coming out of that. Which leaves Spain, and I think Spain has had this horrible experience of authoritarianism in government, and this is my own personal theory of why they're the European country that's pushing this. Do you have a better theory? I mean, why Spain?
I think that first of all, this was a lawsuit that was, this was a case that was filed by the Association for the Dignity of Prisoners, and the case was opened in the Spanish National Security Court, the Audiencia Nacional. Now, this Judge Garzón is a very, very progressive judge, and I'm not sure that just any old Spanish judge would have referred this case to the Spanish prosecutor. Maybe they would have, but I think it has a lot to do with this judge, who's a very courageous judge. But your theory may well have some merit here.
Yeah, if, for example, because of their prosecution also of possible Israeli war crimes in Gaza, causes them to just say, okay, this is just getting too hot, we don't want to touch the whole thing, and they back off legislatively. Do you see any other European countries that might pick this up?
Absolutely. In fact, I think that the evidence that has already come out of torture and war crimes against U.S. officials, Cheney, Bush, Rumsfeld, Rice, not just the ones who are being investigated in Spain, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. And I think it's going to continue to come out. I know that evidently 2 or 3 of the most egregious torture memos are about to be released. And as that happens and as congressional investigations go forward, I think that we're going to see more pressure on Obama to do what the law requires him to do, which is to allow his Attorney General Eric Holder, who should be doing this on his own as an independent prosecutor,
I was just going to ask,
to go forward.
Right.
But if this doesn't happen, you're going to see European countries bringing these universal jurisdiction prosecutions. And the question is how Obama will react. Is he going to threaten them the way Bush threatened Belgium when a Belgian court had charges pending against Donald Rumsfeld, and Bush went to Belgium and said, we're going to pull the headquarters of NATO out of Brussels if you don't back down, and Belgium amended its law and dropped the charges. Right. What about the German prosecutor? The Center for Constitutional Rights and the National Lawyers Guild and other groups asked the German federal prosecutor to investigate Rumsfeld and company, but after political pressure, he refused. And the question is Obama going to, would Obama, if he does not prosecute, if his government does not prosecute these people, which they should, is he going to threaten and put pressure on foreign governments who would bring these prosecutions under universal jurisdiction? And I think you're going to see more and more of them.
I would think that, it's impossible, of course, to read the mind of Barack Obama or know what's going on in the president's inner circles. But it would seem to me that if Attorney General Holder were to initiate a prosecution, or there were any prosecutions initiated in the United States, that they would immediately become, the kind of circus that the Bill Clinton impeachment became. In other words, they would become highly politicized, and as a consequence wouldn't have the cutting edge of just a clean prosecution. And if a European country, on the other hand, simply held a trial that had nothing to do with politics and held up for the world the crimes that were committed and brought charges and prosecutions against these guys, then that would provide it would clear out the rot. It would show what had gone on during the Bush administration. B, it might provide some accountability, and C, it might provide some political cover for some sort of internal investigations that could lead to prosecutions in the United States. It seems like this would actually be the best of all worlds from the Obama administration's point of view.
That's a good way to look at it. I mean, if some other country does it, it's not Obama doing it, although we certainly have the War Crimes Act, we have the torture statute, we have statutes against maiming and assault and stalking that should be used, that have not been used to punish this. In fact, John Yoo, in one of the most egregious torture memos, said that he was recommending that the Department of Justice not pursue any prosecutions under the maiming statute, and the maiming statute provides that it forbids someone from cutting, slitting, or biting the lip or other member, cutting off a member of the body, or pouring caustic liquid on a body. And this is what John Yoo said we shouldn't enforce. But it really is the job of the U.S. justice system to bring these people to justice, because when we ratified the Convention Against Torture, we promised all the other countries that ratified that treaty that we would prosecute people who had committed torture. And And so it really is a legal obligation that the Bush administration should take on. Even if another country does it, there are going to be accusations of politicization.
Right.
The Republicans are going to scream and yell.
Well, already
there goes Europe.
Yeah, already the Republicans are blocking the confirmation of Dawn Johnson to the Office of Legal Counsel because she has been so outspoken about these crimes.
Absolutely, and it's mandatory that she get confirmed. And I think that people need to let their congresspersons know how important it is to have an independent voice like Dawn Johnson as the head of the Office of Legal Counsel, which has been so tarnished and infected and polluted by people like John Yoo and Jay Bybee and David Addington.
Yep, this is an important time to call your two senators and say, please confirm Dawn Johnson, and also Senator Specter and Leahy, the heads of the Judiciary Committee. Marjorie Cohn, thanks so much. MarjorieCohn.com. Thanks so much for being with us today.
My pleasure, Tom.
Always good talking with you.